Good evening, YouTube. We are here again at Galot Motorsports Park with the silver car and the red car. John Dock is here again. We're going to try this again. I got a little sick last time we were here. Didn't get to see the last couple passes. Silver car blew off a boost tube. The red car ran good, but we're going to turn it up a little bit more and see what we can do. On this video, I'm going to go over some data log stuff, lining up cars, and give you guys a little bit of insight to what it takes when you take a race car to the racetrack. Hope you enjoy it.
Not with this on, I can't reach it. It's a little too far, but I got everything on.
Don't tell me we got to put a cell phone holder in this thing.
Oh yeah, that's the name.
Need one of those?
Yeah, probably. Yeah,
we don't do cup holders anymore, we do cell phone holders. Alright, so we are
you look like one of them people from the Jets.
Back in the pits, just made a pass. First pass on the silver car had the same situation happen again where it blew a boost tube off. What I'm looking at right now is trying to figure out how much boost it took to blow it off and kind of go from there. I'll let it cool down a little bit and put it back together. Looks like it only made 7 pounds on the wastegate on the trans brake. And it blew off the tube at about 18 pounds. So we're gonna have to fix that because we want to make about 30 pounds of boost with this car. And it blew the same tube off that it blew off before. When we had it at the shop earlier today, I cut the throttle body end a little bit shorter to try to get the geometry of how the tube fits in the car a little bit better, to try to hold it a little bit more secure. Blew the same piece off again. So what we did is put it all back together, and I had Doc with a pry bar prying the tube into the intercooler while I tightened down the clamp. If it blows off again, I'm gonna have to figure out something different because it's just not working. When it made 18 pounds, the pipe came off and immediately goes to 0 boost and the car slows way down, of course. So got it all buttoned up. We're gonna try it again and show you a video of that pass.
Easy on the brakes.
loud and I don't want to talk too loud into the camera, but we are pulling the log off of Miguel's car right now. Alright, so we are glad that the boost tube stayed on during that pass. However, when the car was going down the track, I never heard it shift. It just sounded like it hung the RPM the whole way down, and that's what I'll be able to look at right here.
I couldn't have got a louder generator.
Right. We are back live. We had to replace the GoPro battery, and I need to do something very important. Cold beer. So, I don't know how this is going to show up, but this is the last pass. This red line that has dips in it is your boost curve. The yellow line right above it is your RPM. So what we're looking at here is after he leaves, everything increases, RPM and boost. And you hit your first shift right about here after the first spike in boost. So that's right at about 22 pounds. The RPM curve stays relatively flat, except for this point right here. And what happens here is you actually hit the rev limiter, so it cuts the ignition, drops it all out, and then it comes back and continues to pull. So what we're seeing here is basically, now that we're making some decent amount of boost, over 20 pounds, it's actually pushing through the converter. The converter can't slow the engine down. So unfortunately what we're gonna have to do is we'll send the converter off so that we start seeing the RPM curve, which is here, follow the boost curve. So this is only about a pound-and-a-half difference from the peak to the valley. RPM stays about 7,800 the whole way until here it hits 8,000 RPM, cuts it down, and brings it right back to about 7,900.
So pretty much when you're spinning the converter, is that like slipping the clutch on the big end essentially?
Basically.
So it's a loss of power.
Right.
So he'd go faster with a tighter converter.
The car should have gone about a second faster than it did.
A second?
A second. Miguel just made another pass in the red car since we can't run the silver car anymore. There's a generator running right behind me, but I'll try to show you what's going on. Alright, so here's what we're looking at on Miguel's log, and this is using HP tuners. I'll try to point the best that I can. So this yellow line going across the bottom is fuel pressure. Miguel just made a pass, we turned the boost up a little bit, but the car actually went slower. So right in this area is where we're looking. This is during the pass. You can see all up here, RPM increase, boost increase, mile an hour increase. What we're looking at here is fuel pressure. So we've got these sharp drops in fuel pressure, which is a little concerning. We don't have a wideband in the car right now. It went bad last week. But what we're worried about is, if you look at this drop right here, you're about 20 pounds of fuel pressure lower than you're supposed to be. And what that means is the car is actually going to go lean. Especially if you look up here, you can see the injector duty cycle doesn't pick up for it. It drops as well. So what we're going to do is we'll have Miguel drop the car off at the shop again, and I need to check this fuel pressure regulator. This is the kind of stuff that you deal with when you go to the track. You try to have race cars, street car kind of stuff. The fuel pump on this car is meant to support 1,500 horsepower. So it gets hot, it gets worn out, things happen. It's been on the car for about 6 months now. It might be time for a rebuild. The regulator has been on this car for over a year. So there might be a pinhole in the diaphragm. There might be something blocking one of the ports in it. So we'll get it back to the shop and we'll check it out. All right, as you can see, we are not at the track. We are in my dining room. Got the cars back to the shop, got them unloaded, started looking over stuff. The silver car. What we concluded with all the data logs and video, which was actually really helpful, is that the car never dropped any RPM in the shifts. So the 1-2 shift is supposed to happen at about 7,400. The 2-3 is supposed to happen at about 7,600. If you look at the data log, it sat at almost 8,000 RPM the whole run, which is the red line on that car. So what we're gonna have to do is pull the converter out of it, send it off and have it restalled and tightened up. Basically what that means is it puts more of a drag on the engine. So when it shifts, it pulls the RPM back down, which also helps the car accelerate. So it puts a load on everything, and turbo cars like load. So I'll have a video coming up about sending the converter off, and I'll do a little bit more converter tech. On the red car, we've looked over a couple data logs from tonight and from track events in the past. Can't really conclude where the mile an hour or ET has gone. So the shifts are happening when they're supposed to. They happen at the correct mile an hour and correct RPM. What it looks like on the last pass is that the car might have skipped over second gear. So the car leaves off the trans brake, shifts 1, 2, and then immediately 2, 3, which kind of drags it down and is going to slow it down. But it's hard to tell because the data log has a glitch in it as well. These are kind of the things you deal with when you go to the track with cars. Street cars are easy. You go out there and they run what they run, they spin, it is what it is, you don't have a lot of adjustments. These caliber cars, there's so many adjustments and so many things that you can actually change. You can change front and rear shock settings. You can change preload on anti-roll bars. You can change the two-step. You can change boost. You can change shift points. All these things, and every time we take a car to the track of that caliber, we're making changes. There's never a time that I've taken a car that makes over 500 horsepower to the track that we're not going to make a change. You know, we're always trying to go faster. No one wants to go slower. So this kind of gives you an idea of what we deal with when we're at the track. You know, the video is only about 11 minutes long. We were there for about 4 hours, and we're never sitting down waiting to do something. We're working on this car, we're looking at a data log for this car. You know, we're always bouncing around, changing plugs, fixing tubes that blow off. There's always something. You know, nothing ever goes perfect according to plan. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope it gave you a little bit of insight of what we deal with at the racetrack. And thanks, John, for helping me put the video together. Be sure you guys check him out. I'm sure you have already. John Doc on YouTube. Thanks to Ryan for always getting me to the track and letting me do what I love to do. Thanks, Miguel, for letting us video your cars and race them at the same time. I promise we'll get them going faster. See you next time.